This is the Unscripted Podcast. We're talking turkeys today.
Why?
Thanksgiving. It's here.
What's
your favorite thing to eat for Thanksgiving?
Yes. I mean, sometimes turkey is one of those things that
it's either great or it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it right,
it's great.
It's jam up. But if not, it's just kind of
dry.
Yeah, it's like shoe leather,
Kind of like the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation thing.
Right. This may sound crazy, but I love deviled eggs.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I mean, I could sit down and eat 40 of them.
And they're kind of hard to mess up.
Yeah, they are, and I reckon that's why. Because now I'm not a big pickled deviled egg fan. I don't like pickles in my deviled eggs. I'll eat them with them in them, but I'd rather not have the pickles in my deviled eggs. I'd rather just have the mayonnaise, and my mama puts a little bit, and Jessica will too now, a little bit of cayenne pepper on top of it.
Some of them, what was that other red stuff? Was it paprika or something that really doesn't taste much or whatever? People would put that all over them. But
right, make it look fancy. Now, we don't do the little squishy thing. Sometimes the ladies at church will put it in that little cake squisher, where you put icing on your cake,
just spoon them bad boys in there. Grab an egg, blow it on there.
Yeah, Jessica just makes a spoon of it. So I like the deviled eggs.
So of all things for Thanksgiving, you're bringing up deviled eggs.
I mean, but let me just make you understand something.
No ham, no homemade rolls, no.
I love eggs,
dressing.
And I don't know. I mean, when I was a boy, I remember we had one time where times were tight, and
that was a lot of times in my house growing up.
Well, I remember that one time we just had eggs, and because hens could still scratch up a bug and lay eggs. And I mean, still to this day, Bob, I probably eat eggs 29 or 30 days out of the month. I eat eggs at my house, and so I'll fry them, I'll scramble them, I'll whatever,
boil them, whatever.
Yeah, whatever Jessica used to just make them for me, boil them, put them in a bag, and I'd eat them at work. And so eggs, I don't know. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I love deviled eggs. That's one of the things I look forward to. I will probably get more. Like you go back for seconds or ninths, whatever it is, and I will make sure. There's certain things you're gonna get every time. I'm gonna try to get deviled eggs every time, and I'll eat 3 of them while I'm making my plate. You know what I mean? Like that's like the preparation meal,
Right. What's your favorite?
What's yours?
Well, I would have to say probably my wife's homemade rolls or my father-in-law's sweet potato casserole. Because
sweet potato casserole,
it's like dessert.
Well, that's the thing for me is it messes up the balance. Like I'll eat it and I love it, but I don't like it on my plate with my regular stuff because it's like you get turkey and macaroni and cheese and beans, all those deviled eggs and all those things you put on your plate, and then you wouldn't put a piece of cake on your plate with it.
Yeah,
but you'd put sweet potato casserole.
I know, man, but it's
I'm not
good.
saying Jessica makes the jam up, and I used to not like it that much, but Jessica makes what is so good that you really feel like you're cheating yourself out of your seconds.
I know. And my grandmother, though, growing up, it was her sweet corn that everybody loved. My Meemaw's sweet corn, and part of that probably too was because we as kids, we'd get shipped off up there to Meemaw and Dadaw's for a month out of the summer, and it just seemed like it was always, corn shucking time.
Did y'all stand your stalks up? And y'all didn't do that? Like what do
you mean stand them up? Talking about binding them together?
When we cut corn, we'd stand up the stalks. We'd chuck our stalks together in the field, and the just to get everything up out of the way. But it was like we didn't have a tractor or anything like that. We were.
Yeah, no, I mean we didn't either. We just went through the rows, pulling ears off of the.
Yeah, we pulled the ears off, and then they would stand the corn. They would bind the corn stalks into big bundles in the field, standing up. You could ride by, and see them, people's houses. That's the way we did it, growing up. So whenever you see those old pictures of corn stalks, bundled up.
Hey, you can sell them dudes nowadays. For
it's crazy because I don't even know why we did it. I look back to these things that I did as a kid. Like this, and I don't know why we did those things for. And because when you're a kid, you're just a stupid kid. You're just like, okay, I'll go do this thing. whatever you tell me to do, I don't have to get a spanking.
Yeah, I worked for a lot of different farmers, and one of them, they ran Granddaddy's Farm, and they still do. I mean, it's a big operation nowadays.
You mean like
It's called Granddaddy's Farm.
not pronoun Granddaddy's Farm, but like noun.
Yeah, noun Granddaddy's Farm. And so they just had a big farm in the community, and they got like, the corn maze and apple cider. And
Was it free?
No.
When we used to do it back home, like the
Hay rides.
the Mennonites would do it for free. They'd use some kind of GPS thing, and they'd cut a maze for free, and you bought your pumpkins, and they sold them little, like
the Mennonites use the GPS.
These are liberals.
Liberal Mennonites.
Liberal Mennonites. Yeah, they were. It's funny, and they were all like that. The Amish were the buggies. The minute, like I had some that lived down the road from me, Mennonites, good family, like Mr. Schrock. Well, I say Mr. We were same age, Gerald.
Yeah,
and
we had a lot of Mennonites in our area, and we had to travel like 2 counties over to see the Amish.
Yeah, but the Mennonites, they lived like 2 houses down. Like where my house was 2 houses down. They lived in a cul-de-sac there, and they just kept their farm right there in that cul-de-sac. But we'd go to their corn maze and everything like that, and they would do all that stuff for free. And now, I was wondering, was we the only place? Because you come to Mississippi, you got to pay to go in the corn. But now they did make you pay to do the hayride, and I wouldn't do that. I told Jessica, I'm not going to pay for this.
Chris ain't paying for nothing.
Well, I told her I'm not going to pay. You can pay for it, but I'm not going. I will not pay to do something that I hated to do when I was a teenager. I hated a hay wagon.
Hated riding on that hay wagon.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pay for that. Like, you can do it, like whatever you want to do to make yourself feel fall with your pumpkins. Let me just tell you, ladies, I love you, and I love all our sisters that listen. There is no such thing as pumpkin flavoring. Okay, there is no such thing as. I'm gonna make a bold statement. Correct me. There's no such thing as pumpkin flavoring. Y'all mix up spices to make it, okay? And so you can have your little pitchers and
go get my pumpkin frap.
Yeah, my pumpkin. Yeah,
great job, Chris. If there's still ladies listening to our podcast, comment on here that you listen and how ridiculous Chris is about pumpkin. And just give us a comment on here.
But like the Thanksgiving for us growing up, I don't know how it was for you guys, but where I lived at, we all just kind of lived right there around the home place. Mm-hmm. And so Virginia, the part I come from, there's a steady march on the temperature. So you march from the coldest to the hottest. The middle of August, it's going to be 100 degrees. I mean, you can have 100-degree days in the middle of August, but in February, it's going to be blisteringly cold. And I mean, like I remember I went to Honduras.
Make you shiver?
Worse. And
kind of like Fall Festival the other night cold.
No. That was
you
cold.
Were freezing.
I like the plum froze to death up there at that thing too, man.
All I heard was Chris about froze to death. I thought he was tougher than that.
I hate the cold. And listen, most fat guys like it, but I hate it. And this so we went to about Thanksgiving was about as because we all did it at my granny's house when I was a boy. Mm-hmm. And her old house was just built out of sawmill lumber. And so, it had a front room, and then it had a few bedrooms, and then it had a kitchen that kind of ran lengthwise of the house.
And then 75 of y'all trying to get in there.
And so what would happen is about Thanksgiving was about as far as you could stand to be outside all the time. Because, by the time, the kids ate outside. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't get to sit at the table if you were a kid. You sat outside. You had to kind of like watching that you don't step on dogs stepping off the porch. And so we all sat outside, and by that time of the year, it was getting cold enough to where by Christmas it was too cold. Now, we would kind of try to do something at Christmas time, but we didn't have very many resources. And so, Christmas, of course, has been so commercialized, especially in our lifetime,
sure.
In the last 50 or 75, since advertising, it's become so commercialized that for our family, Thanksgiving has always been the big holiday. And it was always because, in Virginia, you could turkey hunt on Thanksgiving Day. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's that way in Tennessee or not, but you could turkey hunt. You could kill your turkey on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, and I don't know about with a gun. I know you can with a bow, but you can't. I don't think you can with a gun.
Yeah, you can kill now unless they've changed it, but you can kill a turkey on Thanksgiving Day. So you could kill a turkey, You could fix the turkey. Everybody could eat. Everybody could be happy. There was no expectation of gifts or anything like that. You could just do this one thing that it was about: be thankful.
Yeah, and being with each other
and just being together.
Now you look at everybody's trying. All these businesses are trying to beat the Black Friday sales. That now they have all these Thanksgiving sales.
Yep.
I mean, it's so ridiculous how commercialized that everything is. And now, I mean, I saw this advertisement where Walmart, if you're paid to be a member now, you can get in 7 hours earlier than everybody else on the online sales or something.
Listen, they hooked us with this thing too. We could care less about the online sales.
Yeah.
But like we signed up for it because it was last week for 3 days, and we called it Thursday afternoon. You can get this Walmart membership now that's $50, right? Mm-hmm. They'll bring you, Jessica does this thing where they go gather up your groceries and put them in your car.
Right.
You and I live so close to Walmart. It's like, it ain't really worth it for us, right?
Yeah.
But they'll bring them to your house, right? You get 10 cents off on your gas. So, you get Murphy's or somewhere like that.
Which is cheaper anyway.
So that's $2 every time you fill up my car or Jessica's car. And my Super Duty, that'll be $4, to fill it up. So, and on top of that, you get subscription to this one of these TV streaming things or something, Paramount, then that works with VidAngel. And so all that was $50 and they'll bring you groceries to you. And there's a blessing because I can send my groceries somewhere. So there's some convenience to this. And I had to sit down and
you can send your groceries to some other location.
So you think about like Gene and Martha, some of our members that live from you and I, it's 45, 50 minutes to Gene and Martha's house.
Right.
Well, it's real easy for me to do my little Walmart thing and send them some groceries out there if they're sick then. Whereas before, we just carried out there. And I got to thinking about this. I was like, am I doing right? Is that really, what is the intentions of bringing groceries? Is it just getting them food, or is it letting them know that, I have to think through these things.
Oh, yeah.
Is this, am I going to lose the impact of this by doing this thing? And because these conveniences that they hand us, I'm a very, Bob, I'm a numbers guy, and so to me, it's just about numbers. If it makes sense, CENTS, then it's worth it. But if not, then I'm not going to do it. And so you make your spreadsheet, you fill up, how many times you're going to get gas. Well, that makes perfect sense. So now, if something's going on, they can bring our groceries to. That's the thing that we looked at. Can we save enough in gas to where it'll because we could care less about the Paramount thing comes with CBS Sports, which is nice.
Yeah.
But that's only going to be good for a couple of weeks, and then it's just going to be basketball season from then on. And so that's all over the place. So you figure, it had to make sense. But I got to thinking about the convenience of it because, when you do something like this for somebody, you want them to know that you're thankful for them and that you appreciate them. And you think
is there an extra touch with me actually driving it out there versus?
Yeah. How much am I ruining this thing? And by commercialization, by the society we live, Thanksgiving has been, now I was somewhere the other day, I think I was at, maybe I got a notification or something, or like Popeyes will cook you turkey for you, or Zaxby's, maybe somewhere like that. They'll cook you turkey for you for Thanksgiving, and you look at that and you think man, that turkey looks good on that picture. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
that ain't how it's gonna look.
And they probably have this thing down to a science where they can do a pretty.
And you got some people who can't cook. They don't know how or haven't really. I mean, there's ladies that I know that are well up into their 40s that I remember seeing some social media posts last year. They're saying that it was the first time they cooked something for Thanksgiving.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good.
That's not good.
No, I mean, it's good that they're
doing it, but it's not good that it's their first time.
And so it's a challenge. And because the Lord, you said it. I think Sunday night with your lesson, you did such a good job with that too. That's just I kept thinking I'm glad you're doing this Sunday night, but this was a Sunday morning lesson. You did it so good. But I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it was just such a good lesson, and you did such a great job with it.
I had a good metal teacher.
And you brought this thing up about Jesus getting off by himself, needing some time alone. And Thanksgiving is a good time for us to have some time alone. some time with just our family.
Yeah.
Some time where, like however your family is, just be your family. You know, if you're like, we're going to sit around in our pajamas, you know what I mean? And the at best, and we're going to do our family thing, and our traditions. And
yeah, and if you haven't looked on our we did a whole thing about families recently on this podcast and passing down a legacy. And so if you haven't listened or watched that podcast, go check it out too. Family is so important.
But we live in such a fast-paced world that sometimes we're so fast-paced we forget to be thankful. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've seen these little. I saw the Babylon Bee or somebody like that put out these. You ever see these little? They do these little videos now. The Babylon Bee. You know who the Babylon Bee is?
Kind of, yeah.
They're the satire news thing, and it's like they'll have an article that man dies while waiting on wife to finish talking after church.
Weird, weird stuff.
Just funny stuff. And they had one the other day, and it was this dude was going outside, and so he's going to walk his dog like, oh, I love you, Poochie, and poof, the dog disappears. And he's like, well, I'll just go to the store. And he goes to put his key in his car, poof, the car disappears. And he's going through his day and everything. He's like, man, he's going to do this or that, poof, it disappears. And he's going to sit down in the yard, and listen to a radio or does his iPod or something. And his wife sees him poof fall backwards, and she reaches out the door and she said, are you forgetting to be thankful again? And the idea behind it was that, what if we only got to keep the things we were thankful for? Mm. What would that change?
What would disappear?
Yeah, what would disappear if we only got to keep the things today that we were actually thankful for yesterday? And it makes you think, like, so when that happened, I start sitting down and thinking, I got a long list.
Yeah. What have I not thanked God for lately?
Yeah, and
because we can get real I guess quick to just God, thank you for this day, thank you for our many blessings. Well,
don't you work with that with your kids?
Absolutely. It's
like don't pray the same thing.
Don't pray the same thing. Like, what are you really thankful for? And
this is a time to talk to God.
And sometimes it's like, hey, what specifically are you thankful for about Jesus and his sacrifice? Like, pray to God about that this week. Think about that this week. Mm-hmm. Or what characteristic about God are you really thankful for about what he's done? And so pray to God about that specific. I want to hear you talk to God about how amazing he is or whatever. And so bring that out in your adjectives toward God, because the idea is I don't want my kids to pray flattering prayers in front of their parents. It's that I want them to be specific about what they're thankful for.
Yeah, and because, like I struggle with this sometimes, and I don't know if you do this, but like I was at the hospital this morning, and I was praying with some folks that were over there, and when I'm praying, I want them to hear the things that I'm praying to God for. And I have to tell, I'm like midstream. I got to remember, like, no, Chris, this is about you being thankful that you're with them and thankful that the Lord can hear you. And and I'm thinking, like, I want to encourage them. I want them to hear encouraging words to me being lifted up to God. But I have to remember, like, I'm talking to God. Mm-hmm. And I have to bring that back around. Like, Lord, these are the things that are important. And I'm thankful for these things. I'm thankful that we live in a world that we live in. I'm thankful for the modernity of our medicine. I'm thankful that we've got doctors and nurses that are swarming this hospital. All those things. Please, Lord, I know there's a lot of people that are going to be lifting up prayers in this hospital, but I'm going to ask a special one for this room right here. And you have to tell yourself, like, while it is important, right, that they, Jesus does this, in John 11, when he's going to go raise Lazarus from the dead. And he says, Father, I know that you always hear me.
Yeah, but because of these people.
But this is a special situation, and I need you to, and so I have to tell myself, like, remember, these are special situations. So you're trying to hold two people's hands. You're trying to hold God's hand and this sister or brother who's in the hospital with you's hand. And so, it's you have to keep those things in focus. And Paul, in Philippians chapter 4.
That's a powerful thing. I'm just going to read while you turn to Philippians 4. This is Jesus' words. And I know that you always hear me, and because of the people who were standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me. So sometimes our prayers are for people's belief. So I don't think that you're wrong in trying to encourage people in the way that you talk to God, because certainly I've been encouraged by other people's prayers. I mean,
I'm encouraged by yours
and your prayers, and other people's. I can remember. When it's really powerful is whenever somebody's prayers, when their words are coming out in your prayers, and then also whenever other people's words are coming out in your children's prayers.
Yeah, and that's kind of that thing. It's like, I have to remember that I'm here to do these two things. Yeah. I'm here to hold God's hand, and I'm here to hold their hand. And so I've got to make sure that when I address God, that it's not about me, but it's about them. You're kind of pointing it both ways at this. You took the barrel of your gun and kind of bent it around sideways, as it were. And
so Galatians what?
Philippians 4.
Philippians 4. Yep.
So Paul, and he's stitching his things up, with the Philippians, and kind of wrapping it up, and going to say his goodbyes to him, and he says, verse 6 of chapter 4, be anxious for nothing. Don't be that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like this the holiday seasons, there's going to be the rush. When we used to do the knuckleheads would stand outside Best Buy all night long to get the $1.99 TV, or the camp out, right. What I'm talking about. And be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with what? Thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. So there is really two qualifiers here: supplication and thanksgiving. Then your request can be made known to God. And the Lord kind of deals with those things. When you have him talking to his disciples, and he's like, when you pray in this manner: God, our Father in heaven, holy is your name. And he kind of gives the rundown, as it were, of the way that we should address God. That we should understand who he is. That's Hebrews 11 and verse 6. By faith, without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he that comes to God must believe that he is our Father in heaven. Holy is your name, right? So you believe that he is God, and he's a rewarder of the rest of that verse, a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Father in heaven, and Jesus is going through this process with them. Like you just need to talk about what's on your plate today. Like, Father, I just give us today's bread. Give us today's bread, and forgive my sins, because I'm going to wipe these off the table of these guys over here. And so he's going through this process, and Paul's going through the same thing here. Just be thankful, in your prayers. Be thankful in your life, because, he's talking to a group of people. There's far more Christians in the world today than there were when Paul wrote this letter. Just think about how few Christians there were in the world when Paul writes this letter. And we're about, Corinth was 49. So Ephesus is 49, 50. So we're looking at 25, 30 years after the cross. The church has only been around 25 or 30 years. And you think about that, how many few Christians there were in the world, and he's talking to the very few that can really be thankful. When we read this, we're kind of clouded sometimes by the idea that we know Christianity is universal. It was always supposed to be universal. That's actually what Catholic means. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
It means universal. It was the universal church. And so Christianity was always going to be a global thing. And so we think about it sometimes in those with those lenses on. But when Paul writes this, he's writing to a very, very, very small group of people in the world that really can be thankful at this moment, because they're the ones that are redeemed. They're the ones that are forgiven. And so you look at us and we can see the world and all the Christians that we know. Well, these were such a small group of people. And think about when he writes to them, just think what he's telling them. Like, guys, just be so thankful. Look what look the way he says in verse 4, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Think about what he's trying to get them to see. You guys have got to live a certain way. Remember, the Lord is at hand. You will be the one, by the way that you live, will make men prepared. The Lord is at hand. You got to live a certain way. The day is coming. You got to be a certain kind of people. It's going to come to an end. So, don't be anxious for nothing. The day's coming. Don't be anxious for anything. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, not prayer only, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And, Paul's he's painting this picture for us to help us understand that we think sometimes when we read this verse, and I think it kind of clouds us sometimes, because we think that, well, I prayed about it, I ought to feel better about it. That's not what he says there. He doesn't say because you've prayed about it, it's going to be okay. Because you've prayed about it, you should now feel different about it. Mm-hmm. He said the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. Like, you're not going to understand this always. That doesn't mean because you pray about something, just because you're approaching God thankfully, just because you're going to this thing in the way you should, you got to do this thing by faith. That surpasses all understanding. Nobody else in the world is going to understand those things, and you've got to understand them yourself.
Yeah, and I think that approaching God multiple times about a matter helps line up my heart.
What you mean?
Well, when I'm approaching God about something, if he was just a vending machine and gave me what I wanted every single time that I pushed the button, then I would become entitled.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, at work.
Entitlement's not Christianity.
That's right. I mean, and here's a perfect example. If you need a pair of safety glasses, like I went to the kids in our class, Carson and all our kids in our class, they're just hard on things, like they don't realize it costs me money.
Kids are hard on things.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying like your kid. I'm just saying kids, and like they're just terrible. Like, one thing they're terrible with is their safety glasses. They get them all scratched up and boogered up and everything like that. And I thought, like, what's the way to do this? And I want to be like, you guys, I don't want you to get $10 from your mama. I want you to go figure out how you're going to make $10, and you pay for your own safety glasses and you leave them in here. Because I went to look them up the other day. I wear a certain kind. You see me wearing the same kind. Well, that's the same kind I've worn for 20 years. Well, you know how I got them? When they got scratched, guess what I did? Went to the tool crib and just got me another pair. Matter of fact, you know what I'd do? To save me a trip, I'd say, give me 6 pair. And you know what I ended up with? An entitlement. You understand? Mm-hmm. It affected me. And now that I'm buying them for the kids because I want them to be safe, right? I don't want them to, to end up with put something in their eye.
Puts it all into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it changes it, right?
And so I think that there's some faith building for me whenever I'm going to God and he doesn't give me the answer to my prayer immediately. Because I'm going to him and I'm praying about it, and then sometimes God's answer is no, and sometimes God's answer is not now. Sometimes it's, and so what that does is that builds my faith and my trust in him. I'm reminded of that with Colossians 4, verse 2, and it puts both these things together.
Hold on, don't jump a gun on me. Helps me when I see it on my page.
I know. Me too.
Colossians what, 2?
Colossians 4, verse 2. Continue earnestly in prayer, being vigilant in it with thanksgiving. And that's something that we should always have in our mindset of continue earnestly being vigilant in it. And he says with thanksgiving. And before that, you know, that this thrust that's right there in Philippians 4 as well, with he puts peace right there with it. But he says in verse 15 of Colossians 3, let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you were called in one body, and be thankful. And you talked about this hustle and bustle, and that's what it is. I mean, I've heard multiple people lately just talk about the go, and this is one thing that Courtney and I really talked about recently. And what do you say no to? Because we talk about the family so much and how important our family is, but we find ourselves dedicating so many things, and we dedicate those things to our lives to good things. For instance, the student center is a great thing. We want to support those kids, and we support it, and we strive to be diligent with it. But last night I just had to say no. I had to say yes to my family. And part of that,
I did the same thing. I went over there and had a Bible study, and then you know what I did? I left.
Yeah.
And they were picking on me because I said, I'm going home. And,
Yeah.
because Jessica sent me a picture of a big old, and I love it. Cold day, chicken and dumplings she had made from scratch, and a pan of cornbread. And they said, where are you going? I said,
and you say that you brag on your wife's deviled eggs.
I'm just saying.
She can make chicken and dumplings from scratch, and Chris likes deviled eggs.
I'm simple.
He could have brought up he could have brought up chicken and dumplings. He could have brought up cornbread. He could have brought up
I'm simple.
Apple pie.
It's real. I'm easy to please. Y'all, Jessica's just real happy with that. I can promise you.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah, and
I get it. And it's a challenge.
It is. And so Courtney was talking about. She's like, here's all these things that it's literally like there were like 10 days straight. It's just something with the church, and that's great. And it's a real blessing that we do those things. But she said, I'm letting my family down, and she's like, and my number one ministry is my family and my house, and so certainly want to find those balances. But then it's like, okay, we're fixing to move to the holidays, and so it is so important for us to
and think about that. Holiday really, it's a compound word. You know that? What do you think the compound word is?
Holy day.
Yeah, holy days. Mm-hmm. And what does holy really mean?
Set apart.
We hadn't done that.
Yeah.
If anything, we've hit the afterburners on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We've hit the after. Like I watched the new Top Gun movie on the plane to Honduras. Mm-hmm. Have you watched it yet?
Oh yeah, dude. Best sequel.
It's an all American movie, And like when he's pulling,
I only remember one cuss word in it too.
I don't know if it was any in it or not.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, to me it's the best sequel that's ever.
I had to kind of skip a few parts because I knew that I had this amount of time left on the plane.
Yeah.
So I was trying to I think I can probably skip this.
Yeah, but man, if you skip some of that, you need to go back and rewatch it.
And I probably, now you can watch it on VidAngel too. So I can watch it with the boys just in case. But what's funny is that at the beginning scene, he's he's got this plane. He's going to pull 10 G's in or something like that. That's what we've done with the holy days, the days that were supposed to be set aside. Liam said, and last year we all had the stupid. That was our first of 3 rounds of COVID this year. Was at Christmas last year, and Liam said, this is what we've done this year. Saturday, Liam, he's going to do his little video game stuff, trying to find them at the yard sales and stuff like that. Well, I went to one guy's house and paddle, and the boys they're good about accommodating me, and I shouldn't say accommodating me, but I'm gonna stand around and talk to the mamas and daddies and everybody like that at their house for a little while and. Talk to, about it's funny when I meet somebody that and they, because I won't far from where y'all used to live at this house over there off of Country Park. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
You go down Sunrise, like you're going back towards the coming to my way, towards the Dollar General, and that long fence on the left where they built that barn in the field, right there on the right, there's a road. Mm-hmm. So I'm down that road down there, and this guy's got a bunch of books, and I like to read, and so I was sifting through the books and talking to him, and we just kind of roll into it's a 30-minute conversation. Well, when I left, I spotted the Christmas trees over here, it was raining Saturday morning. It was starting to mist, and it was inching south with the cold. And
that was the first. It's rare in Mississippi where you start a day off warm and then it progressively gets colder through the day. There are a few of those in Mississippi.
It felt like it was going to snow.
Yeah.
You know how you get them days where
that front's coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, so you saw the Christmas trees.
I see the Christmas trees, and I was leaving, and I remember the day or two before that, Liam saying, "Christmas went too fast last year. I want to make it slow down this year." And so I called, Christmas music. Okay, so we start playing Christmas music about the 9th of September, it seems like. And so
in America or your house?
We'll just leave that one open. and
somebody at the retreat this last weekend had on like a Christmas shirt. It just said joy or something. You can tell it's Christmas colors or whatever. Mm-hmm. The cooks that were down there, of course, it's weird when you go to you go to the same place, but then there's different people.
Oh, right.
Than our camp week.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so there's different cooks, there's different people in there, and of course,
y'all have to sleep in a mess hall.
No.
Okay.
No. But there was people that anyways, I got to meet them all last year, and so it wasn't like I was, you weren't the weird wart,
right.
at the place anymore.
Right.
But they literally they stopped somebody in line because they had a Christmas shirt on this. She was a counselor, and the cook stopped them, and then they wrote her a ticket on a plate and said no, nothing Christmas until after Thanksgiving Day, and gave her a styrofoam plate. It was funny, but
well, and I think that some of that is kind of the rebound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one of the reasons why they're spreading out Black Friday this year is because the economy's so bad. So people can't just
can't just make it all the big one dump or whatever.
Yeah, a few years ago.
That's how we do it all the time. We spread it out all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, but they will look for the Black Friday deals. They'll look for like if I can buy this thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the idea is, it's like going to Sam's. Like Ben and I'll go to Sam's once a month, and we'll eat we can go over and get 2 hot dogs and a drink and a pretzel, and it's like what, $3.50 or something, Ben? Well, they ain't making no money on that hot dog. They just want you to come in there and buy
the stuff.
Buy the stuff. So they'll give you a hot dog for $3. Well, that's what they're doing with the Black Friday stuff. And so, I pull out this driveway, and I remember Liam saying that. And I called Jessica, and I was like, "Hey, you want another Christmas tree?" And she was like, "I do." And so now we got a little bitty one in our bedroom on the dresser. We got our big one in the living room. The boys have their own Christmas tree that they decorate, a little sawed-off one.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got another big one that I bought for $10. And the reason why I bought it is because I love Jessica. And I know it's important to her. And I want to slow down. You know what I mean? And so, she does such a good job with wanting to build traditions. And, these things that become habitual, that the kids can – they're like on birthdays. Like, I think it was Aiden's first birthday, she had a little thing that she strung across our fireplace that said, "Happy Birthday." Well, she's used that thing 14, 12, 9, so whatever that is, 40 times now because they expect that to be up on their birthday. Where's the birthday? Like, I think Bo this year, she hadn't put it up yet. He's like, "Where's the happy birthday thing?" And so, and it's just like cheap.
I can see his face too, Mama.
Yeah, and it's just a cheap little, something she probably bought at Walmart or something, but it's been a tradition, and so it's become part of our family.
I guess, what's one tradition that she does for that sets apart?
So, Jessica is so meticulous with things, and I don't mean she's not a neat freak at some degree. I reckon she is, but. She's not like a clean Nazi or anything like that. But one thing that Jessica always does with the boys is we always, at Christmas time, because we've done this since they were little, and it's been unique here because it's not always cold, but at Christmas time, everybody gets in their pajamas, she'll make some hot chocolate, and we ride around and look at Christmas lights one night. That's one thing that's been a given.
That's cool.
And there's other little things that she does, like when we put ornaments on, she plays Christmas music and makes cookies. Even Bo yesterday was like, "Now, Mama, when you make the cookies this year, I want them little round, kind of yellow ones, not the cinnamon ones, but they're maybe just like a sugar or something like that, you know. And so she's done that enough with him to know that it's a tradition to him. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's just these things about our families, and so you think about the way the Lord then sets up the church. He sets it up to be traditional. Gotta be careful with that term.
Sure.
I don't mean us bringing man's traditions in, right? You know, the things that man brings in as tradition. But Paul even says is like, he tells the Thessalonians, like, make sure that you keep the traditions that we handed down to you. And, you know, the older I get and the more my kids, you know, because we didn't have it was a lot of, maybe I should say turmoil, you know, in my family when I was growing up. But Jessica's done such a good job at maintaining this thing that now I really get to see the blessings of these traditions, and it makes me thankful more to the Lord of, like, just think about this one tradition that we hold each week. This little old tiny cup and this little old speck of bread that the Lord says, this is going to make sure that you go to heaven. This one thing, if you do this week in and week out, that's why Paul condemns the Corinthians in chapter 11 and says, because you're not getting this right, there's some among you that are sick and dead. And it's because we're not getting that tradition right. And so, you know, when you look at these, you could be so thankful then that the Lord would give us something that we already do. Every culture has traditions. Every culture has its norms that it may or may not do. And the Lord, he figured that stuff out a long time ago.
Yeah, and talking about the Lord's Supper, one thing that I know me and you talk about it, and we try to instill this into the minds of people who are, I guess, presiding over it. I guess I don't know the best word for.
That's what we say here,
right? And giving the thoughts and leading that meal it just seems like since COVID it's become fast food Jesus and
drive through Jesus,
right? And it was so, you know, 2 weeks ago at our beach retreat, that's one thing that I said that I really wanted to slow it down. And so all the girls, they made homemade Lord's Supper bread on Saturday.
That's cool.
And so, of course, we had this created thing, and so it's like, hey, theme. Yeah, right. Theme. And so the fact that they could create something that represented the Lord and then would bless other people's lives. And
that's just so powerful, Bob. Good job.
Well, good job. I got to give that one to my wife because she's like, I would, you know, that was something she wanted to do. So, so then all the girls were saying, when they made it, of course you got to taste it. You know, you got to taste test it or whatever. But they're like, it's so good or whatever. And they're like, why can't we do this for the bread at the church? And I said, you can, but why can't we needs to be, why can't y'all?
Right.
You're a senior in high school. You're a senior in high school. You're a senior in high school. You can, if you want this done, then you coordinate it and you go to our shepherds and you tell them that you're going to lead it. And so if you want it done, then do it. So that's on their table now. And I don't know if it's ever going to get done or not, but right. it's back on them. But if you want something to happen, you're going to have to create it sometimes.
Well, it's just another byproduct of this slowing down, mm-hmm. you know, and just being thankful right where we're at. And so
what we did was everybody had two good sized rounds of bread. We're going to take time. If you want to pick off a crumb and eat it, that's fine. But if you want to eat both of them and remember Jesus the whole time, and so Ben led the Lord's Supper that morning. But what we told everybody at the start was, you can grab the plate off of the table, and if you want to eat one crumb, that's fine. Or if you want to eat
a cake,
both pieces or whatever, you can. But we're not going to go forward with the prayer for the fruit of the vine until everybody puts their plate on the table, and to allow you to examine yourself. And that was neat, just to, of course, we were just able to examine our lives and then just slow down. And the same thing was, if you want to sit here and sip on Jesus and remember him and think about him and reflect on your life, that you had a cup of juice. And so you can sit there and really be thankful for him. And then, you know, and then finally, once everybody put it down, we knew that everybody had examined their lives, and I don't know how long it took, but Ben did such a good job directing our thoughts. And
the blessing is it doesn't matter how long it takes.
That's right.
I mean, it just takes.
It just takes, and that was you know, it was just nice to slow down, and just to really be thankful and to remember the Lord. And anyways, I think that's I think that those are it's a Lord's Supper that resonates in my mind.
A tradition.
Yeah. But that one particular, because we took the time.
Right.
I can remember some of my thoughts just
yeah, and there's nothing magical or what's the word, like spellbind. I don't know. You know, like you don't get any kind of like
you don't get brownie points with the Lord because you took more time, but he
even just
taking
taking it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get. It's not like, because it was never for him.
It's for us.
Yeah, it's for us in the world, because Paul says you do two things there. He said you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes, and you're going to examine yourself to see whether you're doing this in the right way.
How do I line up with Jesus? So, last week we talked about politicians and all these different things. Well, the Lord's Supper allows me the opportunity to go, how do I line up with Jesus, and how truly thankful am I? Because this whole body can be thankful, like everybody around me, but that's one intimate moment where you're gathered together with a group of people, but you're examining your own self.
Tradition. So thankful for him, Bob.
Yeah, I hope that the peace of God's ruling in your hearts, and
you guys have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy your deviled eggs.
Yeah.